Hello everyone, welcome back to Witchtionery. If you have yet to subscribe to this channel, then please do so because we're getting crafty, and today I wanted to show you my creations using the My Monthly Hero Art Kit for November 2018. Before we get started, I wanted to unpack the actual kit so you see what it brings. The kit itself brings 2 embossing powders in gold and green gold, which are beautiful. I really like this green embossing powder even though I don't actually use it for my creations today. This kit also brings a 4x6 inch clear stamp set, but the real showstopper of this kit is the advent calendar project. It has a stamp and a coordinating fancy die so you can make an advent calendar, and that's literally how this kit was advertised this month, as a DIY advent calendar project. And here on the cover you can kind of see the instructions of how to make the calendar itself. I also bought the presents background stamp because I fell in love with it, even though I don't actually show it during this unboxing. Sorry guys. For my first card, I brought out a piece of night paper from Paper Source and a Sizzix wafer die. I'm going to trace this large circle, and I'm going to use the 4x6 stamp set that came in this kit to make an ornament card per se. And I got the idea from the Simon Says Stamp Holiday Icon stamp that they have on their site. It was one of their Stamptember exclusives. Although the Hero Art stamps aren't as dainty as the Simon Says Stamp ones, I figured these holiday icons would still look great for this design. All I'm going to do is stamp down the images using some clear embossing ink from Simon Says Stamp, and then I'm going to stop occasionally to heat emboss the images with the gold embossing powder that came in this kit. I'm going to leave enough space between each of the larger icons so the space doesn't look too overcrowded, and then I'm going to stamp down the smaller images to create the illusion of a circular shape. While working on ideas for this kit, I really wanted to do something, well, you know, different because it's me. So after my nosy self scrolled through social media, as me, a nosy person, often does, I decided to scroll. I just really wanted to completely transform the traditional color palettes that I was looking at and bring you a blush, navy, craft, and gold color scheme. I know that these colors won't be everyone's cup of tea, so feel free to take these designs and use whatever colors best fit your projects. I was pretty shook by how great these turned out because I typically do not see these colors used in holiday cards, nor would I have expected to blend these colors for the holidays. But I guess that's kind of what happens when you take a risk and you experiment a little. You end up with something completely different. Once I was satisfied with the space between each ornament, I brought out my Uniball white gel pen to add a few dots around my actual icons just to round out my design. And after I was happy with the look, I take my pencil and erase the circle around my design while desperately praying that my hand wouldn't slip and I would smear any of that gel pen, because it does take a little bit to dry, and any slip of the hand would have just had gotten me to start over, and that was just not the life I was trying to live, friends. From my stash, I brought out a piece of cotton candy cardstock from Simon Says Stamp, and I trimmed it so I could have a strip for my sentiment. Since this kit didn't have a large pool of sentiments to choose from, I decided to pull out my October 2017 Hero Arts kit, and I'm really upset at myself just for not giving this kit a chance back in 2017, because now it's one of my go-tos, and I love it. I stamped down Happy Holidays in the same gold embossing powder that I had used for the holiday icons, and then I took my heat embossed strip and added some foam squares to the back of it to just add a little bit of dimension to my card. I also created this card in a light green and red so you can have a chance to see how different this design would look with a slightly different color palette that's more traditional. Regardless of what colors you use on this card, it's really easy to recreate. I quickly taped down my panel to some Nina Solar white cardstock, and that finished off these cards. And I really like these cards a lot. For my second card, I wanted to use that beautiful advent calendar stamp because at first I thought that I was going to make an advent calendar. So I brought out my mini Misti to help me stamp down my image onto another panel that I'd made from cotton candy cardstock, and I'm going to ink it up with embossing ink. And then I'm going to heat emboss all of that with some gold embossing powder onto my panel. I really wanted to make a shaker advent calendar, and I was dead set on it, but after looking through my stash, I realized that I'd run out of some foam tape, and literally in my stubbornness, I decided not to make an advent calendar at all. But that's okay. At least we have the option in the future. If your homegirl ever remembers to, you know, buy some foam tape, we will still make it do what it do. I really wanted to draw on the inspiration from Giannis Makula to color in my ornaments on this stamp. So I'm going to take out my chip Sapphire Distress ink, and I'm just going to use my watercolor brush to color in my ornaments. The pink cardstock gave the appearance on the ornaments of being slightly purple, which I wasn't really mad at. It wasn't a bad thing. It just kind of taught me that purple might also work in this color scheme, but maybe not for the holidays or maybe for the holidays, who knows, there aren't really any rules. I'm going to adhere my panel to some Neenah Solar White cardstock and then cover up the left side of this card with some night paper, or a night paper strip that I had just raised up on some foam squares. I definitely still felt like something was missing from this card, so I pulled out my Uniball white gel pen again and I just went over some of my ornaments, giving them little details to kind of break up all of that pink. And after I was done doing that, that finished off this card. For my third card, I had another card that I was kind of thinking about, but I disliked it halfway through building it, so I put it to the side and I didn't want to waste any of the foam squares, so to redeem it, I just literally put it to the side and started working on a piece of Strathmore watercolor paper. I took all of those removable ornaments from the advent calendar and I just heat embossed them using some gold embossing powder. I'm going to pull out my Spun Sugar Distress ink and color all of my ornaments, and although the camera didn't pick up the color well, I promise it's there. It's very light and really pretty and really pink, and it kind of reminds me of millennial pink, which, by the way, quick tangent, who decided to give us millennials the color pink as our color? That color is way too happy for millennials. Shouldn't our generational color be something like in-depth indigo? Maybe like some fossilized gray avocado madness? I don't know. Existential crisis eggplant? I don't know, anything but pink, but I digress. I'm gonna fussy cut my ornaments, and then I'm gonna start on the redemption of my card that I took apart. So I took out a piece of paperback cardstock from Paper Source, and then I'm gonna layer a random piece of night paper on top of it. I'm gonna adhere my ornaments down to my card using my tape runner, and then I felt like it looked too plain, so I took my Delicata gold ink out and I started to stamp down one of the little stamps around it. However, my Delicata ink was giving out on me, so I took out my gold gel pen and I started going over all of those stamps with it. Off camera, I took my white gel pen again out and I decided to make a couple of embellishments around my ornaments. I did put a few little dots on camera though, I made some strings off camera. I took the second half of the cotton candy strip that I had cut out earlier, and I just stamped down the sentiment Happy Holidays with the October 2017 My Monthly Hero Art Kit, and then I just simply used my tape runner to adhere it down to my card. I didn't want to do anything fancy. I didn't actually want to add too much bulk to this card. I know that's shocking. It is what it is, but I felt like this would adhere well anyway. So I go ahead and I put this down on my card, and once that's adhered, that finished off my card. For my fourth card, I really wanted to make a panel that would look like it had been gift wrapped in ribbon around the right hand side of my panel without actually using ribbon, because I didn't want to add all of that unnecessary bulk to my card. So I started to draw a few parallel lines to outline the shape that I wanted, which took a few tries because apparently I'm also not really great at drawing straight lines, even with guidance. So once I was happy with my outlines, I'm going to use the same technique for my first card, but instead of a circle, I'm going to use a line to kind of just mimic the appearance of washi tape or ribbon. I made a little mistake at the bottom of my card, so all I did was overlap the stamp, so I had to be careful not to sprinkle any embossing powder on it. And at this point, for the sake of consistency, I brought out my white gel pen again just to fill out the space in between my stamps. It wasn't anything super big or whatever, but I just kind of wanted to do it. After I'm done doing that, I wanted to take out some twine and wrap it around some of the parts that I had stamped down to create a bow at the center where my little fictional lines met. Originally, I wanted to put a sentiment in that blank space, but after thinking about it, I went with the twine. It adds less bulk, and I still got to feel like I had a ribbon around it, or around this little panel. And despite how simple this card looks, it is actually one of my favorites. So yeah, I quickly made a bow, and then I cut off any of the excess bow strings from my twine off. And I also tucked in one of the legs underneath my actual string so that it would stay flat and stay in place. I used a wee bit of tape just to, make sure that my string looked nice and tight around my panel. And then I raised up my panel onto some Neenah Solar White cardstock using my foam squares. And also I off camera erased all of my pencil lines, which I didn't show. But once that's in place, that finished off this card. And like I mentioned, this one's actually one of my favorites. Finally, for my last cards, I really wanted to show you guys the Presents background stamp. I really saw the potential for this entire stamp. I think that it's perfect for birthdays. I think it's perfect for Mother's Day. I think it's perfect for Valentine's Day. It's a multi-purpose background stamp, and I really, really wanted it and needed it. I also have an obsession with pattern paper that has presents on it because I love to wrap gifts so much that it needed to be mine. I ended up taking out my mini Misti to stamp down the presents background stamp onto 2 pieces of Strathmore watercolor paper, and then I heat embossed one of my panels with some Copper Ranger embossing powder and the other with the same gold embossing powder from this kit. I took out my spun sugar and I started coloring in my images on my panels. On the second panel, I'm going to do some ink, like an ink blending background with that spun sugar, and then I'm going to go over it with the same spun sugar, and I'm just gonna watercolor it on the top just to give the appearance that I have some darker presence on here while still sticking onto the same color palette. Off camera, I had made a third card that was a little bit more fun, and I used some Aubrey blue paper and some gold embossing powder to make my presents look like a ton of Tiffany & Company classic blue boxes with a sentiment and poinsettia red paper from Paper Source. I decided to do that because, I mean, what person doesn't want to, you know, hint, hint, nudge, nudge at their boyfriend to get them some Tiffany & Company for Christmas? And I felt like that would be a really good way to kind of like give my boyfriend a hint that I might want some Tiffany for Christmas. So I decided to do that, and I decided on the red paper because around the holidays, Tiffany & Company decides to wrap their classic blue Aubrey boxes in some really deep red satin ribbon, and I really love it. It gives me all the life in the world, so I really wanted to do that, and I do show you a picture of that. I'm going to heat emboss my sentiments on night paper and adhere them down to my card panels. For embellishments, on one of my cards, I'm going to add twine around the card to make the card look like a gift itself, and then on my other card, I am going to just use some glossy accents around certain presents to just give my my card a little bit of that extra va-va-va-boom that I really, really love. And I think that this really did add that, and I really, really enjoy it. It is a little bit different in color and everything. Once I was done doing that, I adhered my cards down to some Nina Solar White cardstock, and that finished off my cards. Well guys, thank you guys so much for watching my creations using the My Monthly Hero art kit. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like what I made for more cards. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.